like what defines you, what you did in campus.
Okay.
Yeah.
My name is Geoffrey Ndarugo Karoni. I am a born-again Christian, born in Murang'a and raised here in Murang'a. I am a graduate of the University of Nairobi. I have a bachelor's degree in economics. I graduated in 2014, and since then I have been engaged in my community as a community leader and a social entrepreneur. Yes.
Okay. So tell us about this group, the CBO,
Yes.
and how it started.
Right. The group is called Murang'a Quarries and Sand Harvesters, community-based organization. Since 2014, it has been operating as a community-based organization, but the structures that we have from the beginning when we were starting out, we wanted to form an umbrella body that brings together quarry workers and sand harvesters from Murang'a County, and hence the name Murang'a Quarries and Sand Harvesters. But as we continued, we realized that the only place where we have quarries and sand harvesting sites is only in Kiharu constituency, and therefore most of the members that we have in the group are from that constituency. And since then we have been working together. We wanted to start a group whereby we could allow our members to save and pool resources together so that they can also empower themselves economically and be able to do the things that they can bring some dignity in their lives. Because it is a sector that has, has a narrative even in the eyes of other community members, whereby it's a sector that has been viewed that the people who work in that sector cannot help themselves, and they have various challenges. It is also a sector where historically it has been known that it is a place where people who have no hope end up. If a child drops out of school, that is where they end up, because there are no skills that are required for you to either harvest sand or even cut stones or kuchonga mawe. And so we wanted to, first of all, the first reason why we came together is to formalize the sector, because that narrative, it kind of, apart from the society seeing them that way, the people who work there also saw themselves that way. There is a narrative that is so long, a narrative that can be said for so long until it becomes their truth. So it kind of was their truth, and we were trying to show them that this is not the truth about you, this is not their narrative. And so that is why we formed the group, to bring them to a place where they can also have some dignity in life and in the things they do.
Okay.
Yes.
How does your Christian faith, or how did your Christian faith inform you taking this initiative or being part of this initiative?
Right.
Yeah.
When I was in school, even before I graduated, I always had the mindset of being able to do something that impacts the lives of people in the community. And I remember when, even before I graduated, I joined up with two other friends of mine, and we started a company that didn't go for very long. And it was based in Nairobi. And it failed because we didn't have enough capital. It was an online marketing company. Its failure brought me back to Murang'a. And I remember when I was coming back in 2014, around August there, my decision was to start afresh from the village. And that is when I joined up with another neighbor of mine, the chairman now of the group. And he told me, instead of staying just at home, there is something we can do. He had been working in the quarry sector for a long time, and he had seen the challenges that these people go through, and the plight, the desperate plight that they go through every day. And so he told me, we can come together, we form a body for them, whereby they will be able to, pull their resources together and do that. And that clicked with me, because that is innately what had been my desire from the word go. I didn't even look for employment, and we started from the word go. And I remember we were going around the whole county. We traversed the whole county from the north to the south, from the east to the west, with his motorbike. And we are talking about spending the whole day visiting people from a place like this, in the sites, in the quarries, talking with them. And there were challenges, because we were selling to them so big an idea, and they are used to so small groups that never used to go for long before they collapse,
Yeah.
because of obvious reasons that were now pushing us to form the big umbrella of the body.
Yeah.
Yes.
Wow, okay, thank you so much for that. And I think maybe just a little bit on in terms of faith and your reflection.
Right.
So how do you think that Christians should engage in being able to bring their networks, their experience, their knowledge back to their communities
Right.
to improve
Right.
the dignity of the lives that,
Right.
yeah.
As a Christian, most of what I do is founded on my Christian faith.
Yeah.
Because even the values that I have and I profess and practice, things like leadership, these are things I learned in the CU
Yeah.
back in school. It is in school where I learned things like accountability.
Yeah.
And when we started this group, you'll be surprised because the challenge that exists in our communities is not even a lack of resources. It is a lack of stewardship,
Yeah.
as the Bible even puts it. Because this resource, you'll be surprised there are people who make, and I was surprised actually when I started this, there are people who used to make money, but because they have no structures whereby they can manage what they have so that it can help them and have an impact in their lives. And this comes to the values that we have. In my service, I have been committed throughout my life. I have been a church person since I was young.
Yeah.
And the values of honesty and patience, because starting something like this in a place like this was unheard of. And it took the values
Especially
of,
for a graduate.
yes, especially for a graduate. Many people, actually, that was a challenge because many people misconstrued what your intentions, because they think you're now coming with that knowledge from Nairobi to con them.
Yeah.
And umetafuta kazi, umekosa, sasa umeona, ukuje uandanganye upate pesa. And now facing those perceptions took the character of, as a Christian, it takes the character of you being a Christian to even communicate to them and show them that you mean well.
Yeah.
The intentions, the honesty, the integrity when you're dealing with them, and the motives that you have. Because I remember for the first 2 years, we were just setting base. There is no one who is paying you, so you're working as a volunteer. And you have to be patient for all that time until, because you have that vision, you want this to help them.
Yeah.
And I guess that is it. I think as Christians, we have to be different from the way our world is modeled, the way it operates. Most people, when they are graduating from school, they are looking on what now it is time for me to be paid for all the time I have spent in school, and to get value for my education in terms of, and that value is usually in terms of the financial part of it, not in what contribution you can make that can impact people's lives. And what I learned is that we have a lot of knowledge, even from being raised in church. We have a lot of knowledge, and we are taught about service and sacrificially serving people. But I think it's about time now we got out of church and come out and apply the knowledge we have, because we have a lot of knowledge. What we lack is leadership. We have a crisis of leadership, not a crisis of knowledge. If we apply the little knowledge we have learned in school and combine it with the values we have been taught, I think we can make things that can impact our society for the better. Yes.
Well, thank you. I think one of the things that has been consistent as we were interviewing the other guys is the issue of transparency and integrity.
Yes.
And I think that is something that has stood out, and of course it falls down to what you have said, the Christian values, and also the Christian faith practically being applied, and the values that we have learned across. And I think now maybe you can tell us the joys and the highlights of this work. At least I have had some challenges and all, and you are still going to tell us, but what has been the joys, the highlights? You've been doing this for 6 years. So what are those joys and highlights you have experienced?
I'll start with the challenges. The challenges have been immense because you were there even before we formed the group. The first one I have already mentioned. And some members also mentioned them. There are people who thought, and I'm not talking about people in society. I'm talking about even leaders, because one thing I realized when you're starting a community initiative like this one, there is the status quo that dominates and that prevails.
And benefits.
And benefits, exactly. For us, it was the transporters who are taking advantage of these people, those who come to buy materials from them, because they didn't have a unified kind of platform where they can bargain even for better prices. And they took advantage of that, because where there are no structures, people get taken advantage of. So people would come and just buy hakubembelezi, ukikataa kununua kutoka kwake, ataenda kwa mwingine. And instead of seeing him walk off to another person and buy, you just sell it to them even at a very low price. And when we formed this group now, we formed at a time, it was not very well timed. Okay, I think in terms of convenience, because it was a time when we were just coming from a history where young people and people from the Kware sector were seen as members of the outlawed sects like Mungiki. And so when we came together, people thought now we are reviving things that have already been forgotten. And we faced a lot of challenges. Even now there are people who think that we are still that sect. And so now clearing that image was hard work, because I remember we were even arrested at some point, and it took now the public, we held public participation meetings in every ward for a whole year.
Wow.
Bringing together every, like if it is in this place where there is a quarry, we bring in the chief, the area leaders, the church leaders, and we tell them what we are out to do and what we want to do and achieve. And that is how we were able to overcome that challenge. Although now the other challenge of transporters still remained, because now they saw as if we are coming now to disenfranchise them, because now we are coming to kuelemisha huyu ili sasa aweze the value chain apate ni anapata mapato mazuri.
Mjinga akierevuka.
Yes, exactly. So they formed their own group that was now in direct opposition to ours, and they started now bringing other people, and it was working parallel to our group. We also had people going to some places and sponsoring other groups like ours to work in, like if it is here, there is another group working, and it was just formed the other day, just to oppose us. But because I think the motives and the visions were not the same, most of them have since collapsed, and this group has still endured to date. And those are some of the challenges. The other challenges are challenges to do with people in such a sector, because of how vulnerable they are. They're kind of people who want to see results very fast, for them to hold on to some vision. And so at some point, the chairman mentioned we started around 400 members. Right now we are around 50. And those are around 350 that dropped off. They're still our members, because they never even said they are going, but we still have them. But they are never active, because they never participate in the activities that we do. And that is one of the challenges, because we didn't want to form a group where we would depend on, because this has been the norm. You form a group and you attract donors, you go for, although they have come, but that was not the motive from the word core. And the challenge has been now, when these members see there is no money coming in, and there is no politicians coming, there are no people coming to, bring us money, they go. And when they see the returns are taking too long to come, they also become discouraged. And that has been one of the greatest challenges. But again, I think with the help, with the grace of God, we have been able to do a few things and achieve a few highlights that I've mentioned, because this group has members from across the social spectrum. We have old people who are old enough to be actually the oldest member is around 85 years. And it is amazing how you see a man who is 85 years rejuvenated, and seeing that there is hope. And him coming to the meetings and saying that this is our group. I remember when we bought our truck, the truck that we use now to transport these materials. One of the highlights, you go somewhere and they come with stories and say, tulienda tukaulizwa mmefanya nini, tuko na gari. And that joy you see with people, And these are old mzes. These are people who had dreams when they were 40 years, I will one day own a car or a vehicle. It is happening when they are 85, and you can see the joy. I think that joy, even if you have not achieved anything else, just keeps you going. And also, we used to have even people, I remember in 2016, in 2016 there was a program, I think it is 2015, thereabout. There was a program for mass registration of persons. We had members in our group who, since they were born, they didn't have national identity cards. They were nowhere in government records. And I remember once now we were through with the public participation that gave us the approval now to continue with our operations by the county administrators and the national government officers. We were given the green light to continue. And one of the county leaders, he was actually a DC. He came to us and told us that he wants us to partner with them so that we can have some of our members, around 5 of them, mzes who were around 70 years, they were issued with a national identity card for the first time that time. And so these are the kind of partnerships and achievements we have seen, because some of them were even going for those IDs so that they can register for these social programs, government social programs for elderly people, and they have become beneficiaries for that. And it is because of the partnerships we have forged with the government and local actors that have helped us to even highlight the challenges that these people face.
Wow.
Yes.
Maybe you can actually tell us a little bit more what the CBO does exactly.
Right.
So, except bringing them together.
First of all, the first pillar that makes the CBO what it is the economic empowerment part. And here is where I mentioned that we were not just looking to be given carrots and handouts. We wanted, because I realized that if you want people to own progress and development, it has to come from them.
Yes.
It is not something you come and impose upon them. You have to, you can open their eyes to the needs, to their plight, so that they can appreciate what they need to do to solve those problems. And now we told them that we are not looking for people from wherever to come and bring us money. We have the resources, and we can, with unity, we can be able to save and do the things that you have seen other people do. And that was the #1 platform, to economically empower them and enable them to, you know, progress in their lives and live decent lives. Some of them have come, when we started saving, we started giving out loans. And you have heard some of them mention they could come for loans for school fees, even small businesses. We have seen others start similar businesses elsewhere, and they have grown. We have partnered with organizations who come to even teach them things about diversifying. Like we had one with an organization called Hand in Hand organization that educates people, especially here where there is arable land, things to do with agriculture, and they have ventured in such things. And that is still under the pillar of economic empowerment. The other thing was to give these people a voice. So the advocacy part comes in, because as you can see, some of these quarries are danger zones, and I think you have heard stories where many of them have lost their lives here. They have collapsed, and the manner in which they were handled when such events occur was just, if I can say, terrible, because no one really cared there before. And we tried to bring in issues where now we can bring the government to help us, especially government regulators like National Environment Management. We have partnered with them for a long time, whereby they come and they show them how to work safely, how these, like to slant the wall so that they don't collapse on them, and so many other things, safety issues like even protective gear when they are at work, and how to be careful. And also to give them a voice. Part of it also involved partnering with those leaders to highlight their plights. Because when we looked around, we saw almost every other sector is covered. Like I remember when the current government, county government, came into power. They started this initiative when they were bringing together every sector under a SACCO. The only sector that was not brought under a SACCO was the quarry sector, because it's a forgotten sector. And I remember in 2017 we were able to lobby for some help and assistance and support from the county government. And for the first time in a long time, actually it was the first time ever, all quarry workers from Murang'a County were convened together.
Wow.
And groups were formed in every area, because ours now we already had a group. We were just given the support and the tools to work, and that is one of the things that we have been able to achieve. The highlights, giving them a voice. So we are able now, leaders are able to appreciate. We are not a sector now that is ignored. We have seen people come and partner with us, interact with us, and even give us support in one way or the other.
Okay.
Gikundi giki ni kindwarithĩtie na twana tuigana na hotete gũthomithia tugathii wega karũni kau uguo na kumenyana na andũ aingĩ anene ni gũkĩte wega kũrĩa mũndũ angĩendia wiki ni gũkaga wega.
Tumewapatia dividend, kanunua shamba, kanunua lori na tukaandika watu kama hawa kwa ile kazi tunafanya huko kwa Kwale kwa mchanga. Tunachimba mchanga na tunapiga mawe. They have a lorry, they have some shamba, they have an office, they have members, committed members. And that's good stuff. They have made me learn. Hakuna kitu kidogo. You work out with the people around you, and then you progress from there.
What has been your greatest source of inspiration to do this?
My greatest source of inspiration is when I look at where we were when we started out. And I remember the chairman said there was a point where I almost lost hope because of the challenges. And I think those are the challenges that come to measure or to test the true metal of what you are doing, whether it is worth it or not, and to test your patience to see whether it was an emotional kind of thing, you know. But my greatest source of inspiration has been seeing the little impacts we have made, and knowing that this could be much more if we are consistent. I am one person who believes that, because I have seen it work, with consistency and with that determination, nothing cannot be achieved. When you are consistent and you believe in the vision that you have, and you apply the right principles, that is where now faith comes in. Because when you're working with people, and people from diverse backgrounds, even if you have the same language and culture, people are still diverse because of things like age. And you have to find a middle ground that brings them together. And just seeing how an old man of 80 years and another young person of 30 years can come together to collectively solve the problems that face them. That is so inspiring. And just being there, I just want to be there to watch the transformation that we can, because so far 5 years, that's not a very long time. And I cannot wait to see what the future holds for them and for us collectively.
With all the challenges you have spoken about, and of course I am sure you didn't mention all of them, what keeps your hope alive? Or what keeps you still doing this work?
Right. I think it comes down to saying that what you set out to do is happening. It is unfolding. I remember one of the things we used to tell our members during those initial days is, in 5-10 years time, we want to have this and that. We want to have done such and such a thing. And to them it seems like a mirage, you know. They couldn't see the actuality of it happening, the reality of it coming to pass. And I think these small wins that come along the way, I think those are what keeps us going. Because God is faithful, because He does not make us do work that is in vain. And He gives us small wins along the way in the whole process. Because it's a process. He gives us small wins that keeps us going. When you discover, remember a time that, especially when we were told we have to go back to the Mashinani and hold those public participation meetings, that was one major setback. But what kept us alive is that we had 2-3 people. And for me, I say that if you have 2-3, a few people that believe in what you believe in, and who support you and give their all, I think even if the group still went down to 10 members, we would still go on. Because if you impact one life, I think the principle of the Bible is that it is not about the masses but that one life that you change. I think that is one thing that gives me hope, because it doesn't matter the people that left or the people who gave up. So long as there are true one person who believe in what you believe in, I think that is enough strength to go on.
Wow.
Yes.
Now when I look at this place, I can see like this kokoto that is here, a huge
load there.
Load. There is this mawe here, and it has been done by hand. And of course I can see like that grandpa there is walking down, carrying a bucket on his shoulder, others on his back, and I'm just wondering, where is the place of innovators when you think about engineers, when you're doing your final year program or project, you are required to do something. So where is the place of the Juakali, the engineers who are in school and other sectors in terms of making the work of these guys easier?
I think that is a very good question, because one thing you will appreciate about the problems that we face as a community, and every community in Kenya, is the fact that problems require an interdisciplinary approach. Because I am here as an economist, and I'm working in the field that I was trained, empowering people economically, and I think that's a challenge we need to throw to even other graduates who are coming out. Because there are so many opportunities, and in a fast-moving world like ours, in a country where we want to maintain our place in the global space, we need to encourage graduates from all disciplines to think about the innovation. I have seen innovations in the agriculture sector in local places that have helped farmers even market their produce and even get better returns from their farms. And I think there are opportunities even for engineers in such a place. Right now, the vision we have is to acquire excavators that can help us even, because a few years back, the work of kutengeneza hizi barabara za kuingia, because that was another challenge they were having. They have the material but they do not have access to the market because the roads are bad. You have heard the challenge mentioned there. When it rains, it is very difficult to access these places. And one of the challenges is that these people do not have even, when they come, some roads are made by their hands. Unapata wamama na wazee wako huku ni siku ya kutengeneza barabara. And you can imagine kutengeneza barabara, how long you can go with bare hands and simple tools. So I think there is a huge gap in the sector that can help even improve the value chain and even improve the lives of these people. Yes.
Okay. What is your final comments in terms of especially challenging and encouraging other graduates, even young graduates? And I think sometimes it's tough, because sometimes you almost have to choose between that progress that you have probably, and you actually talked about it in terms of big monies and career progress and all that. So in terms of sometimes having to sacrifice that and look at impact, and coming back to our communities to engage, to lift lives, but also to add value with the training, the networks and the knowledge that we have gained.
I think we have to realize one thing, and it has been mentioned by a few members, that opportunities are there. The approach I have towards doing anything is that as long as there is a problem in community, it is there to be solved. And the opportunity lies in the solution to that problem. All the problems we have, the problems of inequalities, in the problems of social injustice, all those are problems, but I think the work of a graduate, we who have knowledge, is to come to the solution part of it, to provide solutions, because I don't think any education we gain makes any sense if we do not solve the problems that affect us and affect our communities and the people in our communities. And if we are only able to, as you said, look at the long-term impact, the long-term view of things, because at the end of the day, it's about the long-term impact that we make in society. It's not about the short-term individual achievements, although there are even long-term individual achievements. But then I think God gives us this knowledge and these platforms to change lives.
Yeah.
Because that is the perspective of even our Christian faith. We have not been given gifts for ourselves. Yeah. We have been given knowledge to impact people, to change lives.
Yeah.
And I think we have, at the end of the day, we have to measure what we do by the lives we change and by the impact that we bring on society and on the people that are close to us. I think that is the measure of success for me, and that should be the mindset, even in our education system and the values we are talking about. I thank God because we are now at last having conversations about values in our communities and in the country. I think now it's about time we tell graduates that we have what it takes and to make them believe in themselves, to change the status quo that, you know, have for ages oppressed people in their social lives and other areas of their lives.
Thank you.
Yes.
How did the CU prepare you for the kind of work that you're doing now?
Right. I think the CU has played a big part of who I am today. I can confidently say that even when it comes to interacting with people, leadership, the missions I went, because I was in charge of missions where I was, and I was in charge of other committees, and the leadership skills have really impacted the kind of work that I do today. Issues to do with accountability, which is a real problem in our society today. Because most of the problems that we are experiencing, I said it's not because we do not have resources, but it's because there is no stewardship, and where there is no stewardship, there is no accountability. So I think the values that were instilled in me to account for every coin, to ensure that I am honest in my dealings with finances, because we deal with finances. This group has grown. It is worth a lot of millions. And the small money that I was able to account for when I was in school, it is not different. There is no graduated knowledge. It is the same. Those skills are the same ones that I apply here. How to interact with people, to partner with people, to establish collaborations. Because one thing I learned when you're doing missions is that mission is you have to collaborate. You have to look for funds. You have to mobilize people. And especially that mobilization part, because it is one of the things that I do most. Right now we are planning about rolling this group to other areas where we never went, like Marago and neighboring constituencies. And mobilization and how to handle people from diverse cultures and from diverse mindsets. I think that those are the values that I learned in the precincts of the CU. And they have been very, very helpful for me in the work that I do. Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.